Meanwhile, let's take a look at the several kinds of emptiness. When we speak of emptiness, they can be understood as human emptiness, the emptiness of all things, and supreme emptiness. Let's look at human emptiness first. This means the emptiness of the self, or the emptiness of life. Since all of life is interconnected and dependent on conditions, no single part of it can be said to have absolute existence in and of itself. Human emptiness reminds us that even the thought of existing as a human being is the product of a transitory gathering of impermanent conditions, which is what we have just said before when we described the sentence, the four elements are empty. And the next type of emptiness would be the emptiness of all things. Since there is human emptiness, the rest of the phenomena or the things are also empty because nothing has an independent existence of its own. And the third kind of emptiness is known as supreme emptiness. This is pretty much a blanket word for all kinds of emptiness, for it is beyond being, it is beyond emptiness, it is beyond duality. Supreme emptiness is also called nirvana and the reality of emptiness. And based on these three kinds, we will gain a basic understanding of this very Buddhist philosophy, which tries to help us look at the real essence of every phenomena or object of this world. And now, after we've talked about the basic essence or the basic understanding of emptiness, then we may wonder, how do we recognize emptiness in the world around us? In most people's minds, being and emptiness are opposites. Most people think being cannot be empty, and that emptiness cannot have being. The fact is, emptiness and being are two sides of the same coin. Once there was a newlywed couple, and they had spent the early days of their marriage happily. But one day, the two of them decided to get some wine and to celebrate their time together. So the husband asked his wife to go into the cellar to get some wine. Therefore, she went down there and then opened up a barrel to get some wine. But she got very shocked. Why? Because what she saw in the barrel was a woman. This made her very angry. You said you always loved me, but why have you hidden a woman in the cellar? She had forgotten about getting the wine and rushed back into the room and started fighting and arguing with her husband, blaming him for hiding a woman right under her nose. And this confused the husband very much and said to her, "What are you talking about? There's no such thing. I would never do such thing." He went down to the cellar and took a look for himself. And he did the same thing. He opened the barrel. And he also became angry. Why? Because he saw the face of a man in the barrel. And he got very angry with his wife and said, "It was you who was hiding a third person in the cellar. You were the one who hit your lover, yet you're blaming me for having done so." So the two started fighting, and the fight got worse and worse, with neither of them being willing to apologize. Afterwards, there was nothing they could do but to go to their Brahmin teacher to give them an answer. And this teacher decided to come down to the cellar to see what was going on. But after he went down, he also became very angry. He said, "How dare you find a teacher of your own? I will no longer have any relations to you whatsoever starting from today." And then he left, leaving the couple in confusion, not knowing what to do. And at that moment, a Buddhist monk walked past their house and found out about the situation. Then this Buddhist monk also went down to the cellar to take a look at what was happening. After he looked into the barrel, he started laughing. He called out to the couple and asked them to come down to the cellar. And when the two of them had come down, this Buddhist monk stuck his arm into the barrel and started stirring, and then threw a rock into the barrel. At that very moment, the face of a beautiful woman and a handsome man were all gone. What this story tries to tell us is that in a lot of times, the things or the phenomena that we see in this world are just like the delusive images within the barrel. Therefore, being is emptiness, or form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. If we are overly attached to form and refuse to realize that sometimes what we see are just delusive images, then we would be easily confused, just like this young couple, not knowing what is real and what is not. That is why we say emptiness and being, or emptiness and existence, are actually two sides of the same coin. Sometimes when we look at the 5 skandhas, emptiness and being exist altogether. Sometimes when you see nothing, emptiness and being are also there. Okay, there's one point for us to clarify right now. When we talk about emptiness, we are not talking about nothingness. Emptiness does not equal to nothingness, because emptiness does not mean that things aren't there. Emptiness merely says that things do not have a self-nature of its own. And as a way for us to recognize emptiness all around us, let's go back to that relationship between emptiness and form. And this relationship can be understood in the following 7 aspects of emptiness. First, there is what we call continuous succession. This means that everything exists within a process of continuous succession. Nothing is unchangeable or unchanging, and all phenomena exist in succession. So things are always changing, things are always being born, and things are always dying. Take our body as an example. The cells in our body are continuing to change, they're continuing to be born, and they're continuing to die. Therefore, it has been said that every 7 years, we would come up with a totally different body, because all of the cells in our body would have become new ones, would have been changed or replaced by the new ones. So every 7 years, you'd have a totally different body. And now continuous succession also means that one thing is replaced by another. Yet, this other thing will only to be replaced by yet another, which is just like the waves we see in the ocean. One wave will cover the other, while the other gets covered up by yet another new wave, and so on. So that's why there is a very famous Chinese saying, "The last wave of the Yangtze River pushes the first wave to the sea. A new generation of people replaces the old. 长江后浪推前浪，一代新人换旧人." This ancient saying illustrates succession very well. And now, with an understanding of the process of succession, which is always present in the phenomenal world, we will be able to better understand that emptiness and being are fundamentally the same. Now, the second aspect of emptiness is what we call cycles in the phenomenal world. The law of cause and effect will help us understand emptiness better, because everything in the universe is subject to the law of cause and effect. Let's take a look at a seed as an example. When a seed is planted in the earth, what it will require now will be sunlight, air, water, fertilizer, and so on, in order for it to grow into a plant. And it is not until a plant has grown will it start to bear fruit and allow flowers to bloom from it. And then after we get the fruit, we can then once again find seeds within that fruit. Therefore, from this continuous cycle, we can see that the seed from the very beginning is the cause of the fruit which we get in the end, which is the effect. So seed, the cause, you plant a cause, you get an effect, which is the fruit in the case of the seed. Another example could be the cycle of water and what we call vapor and so on. For example, you place water as it is, you leave it there as it is, and then when the temperature gets high, the water will vaporize and will start to rise into the sky and become the clouds. But when there's plenty of water within the clouds, there will be condensation. This vapor will start to condense and then become rain. And this rain will fall back to the earth. So once again, you start with water, and then in the end, you still get water that comes from the air. So from this cycle, we can see that this is only one of the examples that goes on and on and on within our physical world. So this is the cyclical nature of all phenomena in this world. And now the third aspect of emptiness will be the way things combine. All things are products of combinations of causes and conditions. For example, our body is made up of blood, flesh, sinew, bone, water, protein, and fat. Once we break the body into its constituent parts, a body is no longer a body. It will be a mere grouping of parts.